as we have been reporting, Vice President Kamala Harris has picked her running mate. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is who she went with as the new Democratic presidential ticket now heads to Philadelphia for their first campaign event together. I do want to bring in Democratic strategist Jesse Lee and Republican strategist T.W. Arrighi. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Jesse, we'll start with you. We were talking about this yesterday. Walz really considered the dark horse in this race, being called a Midwestern, a happy warrior. We talked about Minnesota nice yesterday. What does this pick do to Kamala Harris's chances of winning?
Yeah, honestly, I think it really just brings together a full ticket where both of them balance each other out. They're both super authentic right now, and they both, share the same values, even though they come from very different places in terms of kind of supporting families with higher wages, good jobs, better health care, new clean energy jobs. He comes from Minnesota that's had a lot of those. And, honestly, over the last few weeks, every Democrat I've talked to more and more has gravitated towards him because he's just so likable.
Yeah, and as we said, that is half the battle, and getting elected is having people like you. Jesse, what do you think Tim Walz brings to the ticket, and how does he appeal to the independent voters?
I think, Republicans are going to try to paint him as some far left socialist radical, but I think all you have to do is listen to him for 60 seconds and it just falls completely flat because he just looks and talks and sounds like a common sense person that, people grew up with. And, I grew up in suburbs of Maryland. He looks like somebody I'd be happy to walk across the street and have a conversation with. And, frankly, if I look at Donald Trump or J.D. Vance, there's somebody I'd cross the street to avoid.
Well, TW, to that point, Donald Trump has called Tim Walz a dangerously liberal extremist. We heard Vivek Ramaswamy say Harris's pick is a massive gift to Republicans. How so?
Yeah, it's very strange to me, the pick. There was no primary for the presidency, right? It was just given to Kamala Harris. And because of that, you've seen the primary really play itself out in the VP pick. There was a concerted effort to keep Josh Shapiro off this ticket because of his support of Israel. And as Van Jones said on CNN earlier today, it really shows that the darker side of the party, that the anti-Israel, semi-anti-Semitic side of the party has won out. I don't describe those things to Governor Walz, but the broader point is this race is going to come down to Pennsylvania. Hillary Clinton lost it by 0.7%. Biden won it by only 0.5% more than that. It's going to be on a razor's edge for you not to pick the very popular governor of that state, who is a rock star in many ways in the Democratic Party, is confusing. But the reason Walz got it was because the base of the party, the uncommitted voters that you saw across the Midwest, wanted him. He is a down-the-line liberal, admittedly so. Now Kamala Harris cannot run away from that whatsoever over the course of the campaign, and that will be a messaging gift to Republicans who would have a hard time battling back against a more moderate candidate.
I guess to your point, TW, we've already heard, many Republicans talk about how far left they are. How do you expect Republicans to move forward and continue to go after Harris and Walz together as one ticket?
Easily, because Kamala Harris has supported every far left policy known to man. David McCormick in Pennsylvania put out a great ad after she became the nominee, talking about her support for the Green New Deal and eliminating the filibuster to do so, giving violent felons the right to vote, including the Boston Marathon bomber, her disastrous border policy, which she's in charge of, and also decriminalizing coming across the border, single-payer health care, you name it. Kamala Harris has supported it. Tim Walz also supports all of those policies. There is no attempt to moderate. So all the unpopularity that the Biden-Harris administration has had because of their legislating to the left has been now doubled down on by a Harris-Walz ticket. They can't run away from it, and it gives Republicans an opening.
So, Jesse, we're waiting to see Kamala Harris and Tim Walz set to appear together in Philadelphia for the first time just about an hour from now, then go on to a 7-city tour of the battleground states. Do you think Walz helps Harris in those key battleground states? We talked about Pennsylvania and how important that state, of course, is going to be in this election.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think whether people are from Minnesota or from Pennsylvania, they're going to instantly respond to Tim Walz and relate to him. And I think really you just have to watch him for 30 seconds and people are going to see a lot more than 30 seconds of him. And, TW used a lot of names, far left, far left, far left. You're just not going to see that with Tim Walz. That's not who he is. It's going to fall flat. They're going to be wasting their breath. And really, I think, he's going to go out there. He's going to talk about jobs. He's going to talk about clean energy jobs that Trump wants to crush and kill across the board. And he's going to win that argument.
Okay, one last question for both of you. TW, I'll start with you. In the end, does a vice presidential pick make a difference?
No, is the short answer. And yes, I do think Tim Walz comes off as a good guy, but he also said to himself, one man's socialism is another man's caring for their neighbor. I don't think the people of Venezuela right now see that as the case. I also want to make the point that they seem to think that Tim Walz is going to bring these rural working class voters into the fold. There is no evidence of that. Tim Walz underperformed rural Minnesota. He underperformed Biden and Obama in rural Minnesota, only slightly underperformed the deeply unpopular Hillary Clinton. There's no statistical evidence to prove that he will bridge that gap. Sure, I'm sure he's a nice fella. But it won't make a difference at the end. People are going to make their judgment based on Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and that will decide the election.
Jesse, what do you think?
Well, sure. It's funny. The quote Tim Walz said is, Republicans will describe anything remotely decent as socialism. If you want to give kids health care, that's another man's socialism, and that's Trump's socialism. And I just think, again, a lot of this is going to be, do you trust these people? And I think people are going to look at Kamala Harris and they're going to look at Tim Walz and they're going to see people that are speaking their values, that have the same values as them, and who they can trust. And they're going to look across the table at Trump and Vance, and they're just going to see two of the biggest, frankly, liars in modern politics.
We'll be watching. Jesse Lee, TW Origi, thank you both for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.